Kia tō te rangamari e roto e tine whare o tātou e tine wā.
That's better. So what were those children talking about? What are they so noisily trying to find out? From the moment we are born, we're bombarded with information and we try to make sense of the world around us. So as we develop language, one of the ways that children use to make sense of the world around them is by asking questions. Of course, when they go to school, teachers ask them questions. But why are teachers asking questions? Now, what I want you to do is go and get some pen and paper. Yeah, that's right. Now, I'm also going to get some paper and a pen. I have them here. I want you to write down why you think teachers ask questions, and I'm going to do the same thing, and then we'll compare what we've both written. So this is what I've managed to write. Questions that help students check on understanding, or perhaps review some information or reinforce something that they've just learnt. Questions to make connections or to arouse interest, or questions to stimulate discussion. Questions to perhaps develop their opportunity to reflect on some information, or even questions that give them the opportunity to perhaps synthesize different groups of information. I'm sure we've got a similar list. Is there a particular skill to asking questions? If we know why we're asking questions, then surely that might help us to ask the right questions. Over 2,000 years ago, the Greek philosopher Socrates developed a system of questioning that would help in the process of critical thinking. Questions that will get students to clarify their thinking. So you could ask, why did you say that? Or could you explain further? Or questions which would challenge the students about their assumptions, such as, is this always the case? Or questions which look at the evidence for the argument. So why did you say that? Is there a reason to doubt this evidence? Or questions which look at the alternative viewpoints. So what is the counter-argument? Or questions about the implications and consequences of that argument, such as, but if this happened, what would be the result? Or even questions about the question. So why did you think I asked that question? And why is the question so important? In the 1950s, Benjamin Bloom, who was an American educational psychologist, and his research team were working out of the University of Chicago, and they developed a taxonomy of cognitive domains which categorized how students learn. The 6 domains in the taxonomy move through the lower order processes to the highest: knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and finally, evaluation. Knowledge describes how students exhibit memory of learned materials, or recalling facts or basic concepts or answers. Comprehension describes how students' understanding of the facts and ideas by organising them or comparing them and interpreting them. Application would describe how students' acquired knowledge is used to solve problems in a new situation. Analysis would describe how students would examine and break down that information that they've learnt into different parts and identifying the motives and perhaps causes, or they could make inferences and find evidence to support perhaps a generalisation they have made. Synthesis would describe the student's ability to compile information together in a different way by combining elements in a new situation or a new pattern, or perhaps proposing an alternative solution. And finally, evaluation would be the ability of the student to present and defend an opinion by making a judgment about the information that they're giving. Now, when Bloom's research team went out into schools to find out if students were required to work at all the different levels that his team had identified, they found that 95% of the students encountered questions that only required them to think at the lowest possible level of his devised taxonomy, which was recalling information. So it seems that the majority of students were not being encouraged to work at the higher cognitive levels. Then during the 1990s, Bloom's taxonomy was revised. In the revised taxonomy, the higher thinking skills are analysing, evaluating and creating. So what are the kinds of questions we can ask to engage at the various cognitive levels in Bloom's taxonomy? On this slide, I've listed trigger words a teacher could use to enable students to think at the 3 lower order levels. For remembering, you could ask, what happened when, or what was it that? For understanding, you could say, can you provide an example of what you mean by? And for applying, you could ask, do you know another instance where, or could this have happened in? This next slide looks at trigger words you could use to engage students in higher order thinking skills. For analysing, you could ask, what was the underlying theme? Or what was the turning point in the game? For evaluating, you could ask, is there a better solution? Or do you think so-and-so is a good or a bad thing? And for creating, you could ask, can you write a song that describes whatever? Or can you design or invent something that will solve this problem? Bloom's team found that an important aspect of asking questions was the time a teacher leaves between asking a question and before the student responds or the teacher uses another prompt question. The wait time after the teacher asks a question is known as wait time 1, and the wait time after the student responds is wait time 2. More research has been done on wait time 1. Research has demonstrated that a wait time of 3 seconds for lower cognitive questions is related to positive achievement, whereas less wait time results in less success. There seems to be no wait time threshold for higher cognitive questions. In fact, students seem to become more and more engaged and perform better and better the longer the teacher is willing to wait, having asked a question designed to help students use those higher order thinking skills. So how does this relate to the classroom? The questions that are related to remembering, understanding and applying, a wait time of 3 seconds is used, whereas questions related to analysing, evaluating and creating, an increased wait time is used. So, if we know what questions to ask and how we should ask them to engage students in lower and higher order thinking, what's the next step in developing those skills as a teacher? In part 2, I'm going to look at how we can use our knowledge of Bloom's taxonomy to help us engage students through questioning.